What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mongols. It is 7 on Sunday. That means that we are live. I am Mike Sparks. Joining me is Steve Mattias and Justin Ashcraft. Gentlemen, it is still light outside. Are you adjusted? Were you ready for this, Justin?
No. Well, so we had a really busy weekend, and my 6-year-old was up super late on Friday. And so for an event that we were at and all this kind of stuff. And so she was ready to go to bed. So she was good. This was a good transition for her of having like, oh, you did actually sleep in a little bit later and all of that. But I am really glad that it is 7 o'clock and it is still light outside and the days are longer, and I'll actually get out of work and it'll be light for several hours afterwards. So it's going to be great.
Steve, are you feeling it?
Oh yeah, no, like it's great. I had a moment earlier. I was just like, I gotta go get something to eat. I'm starting to get hungry, and I'm like, oh, it's like 5:30, and I look over, and Rory is just like sitting there, and I'm like, why have you not pestered me? It's like a half hour after 5 o'clock. I was like, oh wait, daylight savings. He's not quite at the pester me for food 15 minutes beforehand. So no, just like, I've been loving having the windows open in this nice weather. Love that it's a couple minutes darker here than it is where Justin is at night, right? Like, it's just that little bit of extra, but a few hundred miles does, right? And yeah, just like, this is great. Soccer is here and we're here.
My only complaint about the extra light at night is now I'm going to feel compelled to stay up later and do more stuff. Like, I felt like as it was darker, I could like hole away a little bit. We made maple syrup this weekend. So like I spent a week like tapping trees, and then yesterday we boiled a whole bunch of sap outside, and then we also cut down some dead trees and got firewood ready for next year. I was exhausted, but now that it's lighter later, I'm like, oh, this is my future now. This is all I'm gonna do in the evenings.
We've got Liz's bread, your maple syrup. I guess the rest of us have to come up with what we're bringing to this.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll start thinking on it.
Yeah, you do. Guys, obviously the season is here. There's a ton that we need to talk about. Let's kick it off with Hey Sir. It's been an entire offseason without Hey Sir. Let's see what Laura Ellen thought of this game in particular.
And now, Hey Sir, 1-minute reactions with Laura Ellen.
Well, there it is. The 2026 season has started. Hounds gonna hounds? I don't know, right? Like, I'm happy. I'm not so mad that we lost. I think Charleston away is such a hard way to start the season, but we're here, right? The Band-Aid has been ripped off. The first loss of the season. Hey, I could just tell that there was just like this slight hesitation with so many of the plays. But my goodness, the season is here. I'm still so excited. I think there's so much potential. It's not as slow of a start as we've seen in previous years. And so I think we have so much upward momentum to go. And I think we have a lot to learn. And oh my gosh, like even the last like 2 minutes, just stoppage time of that game were wild. But anyway, let's go Hounds!
This has been Hey Sir, 1-minute reactions with Laura Ellen.
So a lot to unpack there. I always feel like Laura Ellen is like the Cliff Notes version of what the show is going to be. Like we're like, here's the teaser. These are a lot of the things we're going to talk about. And then we like get into the weeds with it. As she mentioned or alluded to, the Hounds did end up losing their first game 2-1 to the Charleston Battery. We were in Charleston. I think there's a lot of takeaways. I know the three of us were kind of back and forth on Slack all night, talking about all sorts of things related to the game. I want to unpack as much of that as I can. One of the things that I do want to call out for those of you who've been paying attention across the entire league, we talked about it during the last show about the whole potential for a USL player strike. The league decided to kind of force the issue a little bit prior to the weekend and sent out an email basically trying to bust up the union and threaten players who chose to stick by the union and not play, which is not cool. And so the response across the league was that at kickoff, essentially the ref blew the whistle in all of the games. Whoever was taking the kickoff, they would touch the ball, and then the players would just stand there for a minute and not play. Josh was at the game, so we will share the footage of the Hounds doing this. We won't share the entire thing, but just to give you guys some perspective for those who didn't see it, exactly what happened. So here's what happened in Charleston yesterday.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So as soon as the whistle is blown, players on the bench jump up. They stand on the sidelines with their hands behind their back. All the players in the field stand with their hands behind their back. The Charleston announcer comes on to try to fill the time, but really the players just stand there in solidarity and just refuse to play. And I think it's just a snapshot of, you know what, you want to mess around, like the players don't have to play. So, Steve, your thoughts on sort of that form of, we'll call it a protest.
I mean, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, the Charleston need to be better prepared for that. Like, what did you expect? Right? Like, you saw it happen the night before in Lexington. Why would you think every team is not going to do that? And that announcer just sounded really flustered, and that's great. I love that, in the sense of like, we're scrambling because we don't know how to deal with this. That's the pressure working right there. That's the players saying, hey, like, we're serious, we're going to do something. And so I hope that the league and the owners take that as, we've given you a lot of leeway, and we're still not happy with where you're trying to meet us. And I'll say, like, there's a lot of good media out there that discusses it more in depth than we will tonight. But just kind of looking at like what the league has said versus how that has come across to the players union, and some of those breakdowns, and quite frankly, some of the insincerity in what I'm seeing from the league of they're not being really clear and they're making claims about things, but not giving us the specifics. So there's the pressure. And you saw it in Lexington, you saw it in Charleston, you saw it in other games as well, that fans were standing behind the players, and that's fantastic.
Yeah. Justin, you weren't here last week. Just thoughts in general on the whole potential for a strike before we move on and talk about the game?
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think one of the things I think I said, you guys had posted some of the questions that you talked about last week in the chat. And I wonder how prepared some of these players could be financially for, we talk about how they're underpaid anyway. And then it's like, can you afford to take 2 weeks of no pay or no, not participate? And like, what does that do? And all of that. So I wonder where that sits with them or how that works with them. And so I do hope that the league and the players union can get closer together, and that it doesn't end up in a strike. Cause I do think, like you guys have said, the players have all the leverage right now, and with it being a World Cup year, but as a fan, you also don't want to see a strike in a World Cup year, because that could be negative for everybody. And I don't want to see that either.
Yeah. Agreed. So we'll see. Well, I'm assuming that, protests like this will continue until there's some form of an agreement. There was a moment last night where I kind of got my wires crossed, and I thought that there was going to be an additional protest at halftime and they weren't going to come back out. And I was like, whoa, like that's a big play. Like, here we go. If all the teams did that, that would be insane. That was not the case. I'm not trying to give them ideas. But who knows? Who knows what's going to happen as the.
But if they hear it and take the idea,
I won't take credit for it, but I would support it.
It was great on the broadcast last night as they're trying to like figure out Paramount CBS is trying to figure out what do we do right now. It was like a good 15 seconds of the protest was Josh filming
right. Yeah.
And then the next shot was like some obviously very casual fans in Charleston, like, what is happening right now?
Yeah.
Like, this is great conversation starters.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure.
Exactly. Guys, let's get to the game. So obviously we've had the preseason to kind of see these guys on the field. Steve, you were at a number of those games. We had the conversation with Rob Vincent where we're like, are we going to a back three? And he's like, no. Yeah. And then, what do we see? We see a back 3-4-3 essentially. Let's start with the lineup. So we had Nico in goal. We had Guy Vactor, Souza, and Beto across the back. Souza was kind of that middle guy. Across the middle, we had Etu, Sample, Sam Bassett, and Barnes. Etu and Barnes really kind of going, the full distance front and back. And then really it was kind of two attacking midfielders and then Chico alone up top, but especially when the Battery were in possession, which was often, and especially in the first half, it almost felt more like a front three where you had Griffin, Chico, and Charles All. So I guess just based on, your initial impressions when you heard the starting lineup, Steve, having seen some of these guys, what were your thoughts?
Like the lineup, in terms of players available. Knew going in that Mertz has had an injury for a little while, had rumors that Elliot Goldthorpe had an injury. And so those were guys I think we expect to see in some of those positions as well. But if I'm looking at this lineup, I'm like, that's a pretty good lineup to start the season with, knowing you've got those reinforcements. And so I felt good about it. I think the shape maybe was a little bit more problematic than Vincent had hoped. But I'm like, I can't take issue with choosing this lineup.
Yeah. Justin, this was both your and I kind of first look at this team. Give me a takeaway. What'd you think about last night?
Yeah, I thought, to Steve's point, I don't know that the shape, I don't know that I'd call it the shape was a problem. I thought maybe the spacing was a problem, that they couldn't quite get their spacing right. And that led to a lot of situations where somebody was trapped with the ball and couldn't figure out a way out and didn't have an outlet pass, all of that kind of stuff. So I think there was that I saw. And then the other thing I think Laura Ellen referred to in Hey Sir was just, you can tell there's a switch of something, a switch of focus, a switch of something that is just not quite there. I think they're still thinking. There was a moment where somebody could have pretty easily gotten a ball in front of a Charleston player and they took a step backwards rather than a step forward. And it's like, oh, these guys still have Bob in their head a little bit going, back, and it's like, no, you've got to take that step forward and be in that space now. And I think that's the kind of stuff that's going to take a couple games to that you can talk about it all you want in a preseason. You could talk about it all you want in practice, but until you're getting it at full speed, until you're getting those full speed reps in, it's not natural yet. And so I think there was a couple of moments where I was like, oh, we could have gotten to he could have gotten to that one, but the natural inclination is to defend rather than push.
Yeah. I think what was interesting about this game to me was that it's hard for me to decipher how much. I think the spacing thing, as you guys said, was clearly an issue, but I think especially if you were to tune in for the first 30 minutes, it felt like we weren't doing anything. I think statistically, if you look at the end of the game, what's really interesting is my son, who's in high school, he'll sit and watch games, but he almost prefers to watch games statistically on his phone and see how things play out and see how players are ranked. So we would talk at different points during the game and he'd be like, we're looking good on paper. How are we looking on the field? And I'm like, fine, but it felt like how much of this was guys kind of shaking some dust off their boots versus, especially those first 30 minutes we were talking, where we seemed very comfortable to just let Charleston have the ball and sit back and try to play defense and absorb the pressure. But once we hit that 30-minute mark, it almost felt like there was just a switch. And then we were like, okay, now we can go forward. So some of that felt strategic to me. Some of it felt rusty a little bit. Steve, where do you fall on that? How much of this do you think was the game plan and we just didn't score, we didn't execute efficiently? How much of this was rust?
I think a little bit of rust, but I don't even think it's we didn't execute the game plan as much as Charleston played really, really well. I go back and I watch the highlights. I look through things, watch a few clips from the game today. And I'm like, it's not that we weren't doing the right things. Sure, we had some misplaced passes. Sure, we had some of those times where we were stepping back instead of stepping forward. And I mean, I had thought the same thing as Justin said, that like, yeah, like there are moments where what has been drilled into these guys, some of them for years, is going to take a little while to change. But I have to give Charleston credit. I mean, they're, at least in this game, proving that their strategy of going out and finding players and embedding them in their system, which has been a system that has been working as it is for a lot longer than where we're at, right? Like we've got a brand new coach this year. Yeah. Ben Pierman has had a few years to get a lot of these guys on board. And so I don't know, like I actually don't feel bad about the Hounds. I'm just like, dang it, Charleston was really good.
Yeah. Speaking of Charleston in that system, Justin, Sean Suber, former Hound, gets their first. Yeah, right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's dead to me.
I can't even say that because I like the guy.
I know.
Show, but like scores the first goal for them. But Ben Pierman essentially rolled him out at times as a defensive midfielder. Were you surprised to see that?
No, he's got the athletic chops to do that. I think you could. I think, you know, if you get a guy who's got a little bit of speed, can play with the ball at his feet, you know, all that kind of stuff, I think it's pretty easy for him to slide up into midfield and do that. And I think, you know, both Beto and Guy at different times were pretty far up the field for us too. Mm-hmm. And so it did seem something tactical for both teams that like, all right, we need one of the center backs to step up and start getting into midfield and add some numbers there. So I don't, you know, I think there's a lot of guys who can do that at this level.
Yeah. Justin, give me another takeaway here. What did you like, not like? What did you see in the game?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot to like. I thought we were just a step off almost everywhere in some different ways. But I thought there was a lot that I think is working for this team, and I think some of the spacing issues will help that. And I think I thought both Griffin and All were staying a little bit too wide at times, which was not allowing Atu and Barnes to get up their sidelines with some space. And that's what Charleston was doing really, really well, is both of their outside backs were getting up the field, and almost at any time they could find that big diagonal and get their outside back into space. And it took almost until the second half for us to do that, or for us to figure that out. And so I think if we had figured that out 15 minutes earlier, there might have been another goal, at hand. And so that would be my big one. And then just getting Dikwa some support at different times. But man, am I glad to have Dikwa back on our side of the field. The amount of cheeky fouls that guy figures out how to get is incredible. And I'm glad to not have to play against him anymore, and we get to play with him.
Steve, it felt like there were two kind of lightning rods in this game that people were really kind of divided on. One was Chico and the other was Nico. Where do you stand on Chico in sort of his performance last night?
I think he did everything he could. I think Justin's exactly right that something about the Griffin All in the attack wasn't working. And when they were wide, that really was because they weren't just wide, they were wide and deeper. And that was Chico up by himself trying to battle for the ball against multiple defenders. So there's something there that he put in the effort, and he was winning some of those balls. And I mean, All made a great play on the goal, but that goal doesn't happen if Chico is not being an absolute menace in the box. If he's not there, right? Like if this was last year, there's no pressure. The defender doesn't make the mistake. The ball doesn't go in the back of the net, and we're not feeling even anything, right? Like it just feels so different, I think, from what we've seen in the past. And so I think he played well. I think he didn't get the support or the service that he really needs to thrive.
Yeah. Justin, you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought Dikwa was good and didn't get enough support. Had he got a little bit more support, I think he would have been a lot better, maybe even gotten an actual goal. rather than force an own goal.
Yeah. All right, then Justin, I'll start with you on the other lightning rod. It seemed that people were really divided on Nico and whether or not he is kind of the de facto keeper moving forward or not. I have my own feelings, but what's your take on Nico and his performance? The team, I'll just say for those of you, the team named him the player of the match, and I think that also surprised some people. But what are your feelings on Nico?
It's hard to say because of the fact that it was misty, rainy, slippery. Everything was kind of against goalkeepers last night.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I thought Nico was our best player on the night. And, the saves, the kick save, the diving, in the midst of a lot, he made a couple kick saves, actually, got a couple hands on a couple balls. I think that game turns a lot worse if a keeper of Nico's stature is not there. And I think, too, the point that you guys have kind of made all offseason, they went into this season with Nico being the number one, and there wasn't like a number 1.5 like there has been over the last couple years. It's like there's not another guy who's right there. And so, no, I think Nico's the starter from here on out and until he really falters, which I don't think necessarily either of the goals were on him or, I just don't think they were him as much as just a good corner that most keepers don't save. And and then a hit from the top of the box that came through 5 different people before it got to him and he never saw it. And so neither of them were him. And so I think he was our best player on the night.
Steve, do you agree?
Yeah, and I think I saw a lot of things that make me really excited to watch him this season. Knowing what Bushy can do as a coach, there's a lot that I think Nico can learn, but I think he's got the raw athleticism and he's bold, right? Like he's not afraid to come off his line. I mean, he had that one in the second half where he came flying out and headed it at the top of the box, right? Like, and a player bearing down on him, right? I mean, there was almost that third goal, but it was, again, it's like he was going for the ball and just slipped. And like, what do you do about that, right? Is that him making a mistake, making a bad decision? I don't think so. Maybe he needs to learn to figure out, okay, what decisions do I make in these conditions a little bit better? But I don't think it's that he like was bad per se in any way. And yeah, like, man, he can make some plays, and some of those plays were some of the most fun saves that I think I've seen in a long time from a Hounds keeper, right? Like, because I think the difference was they were good saves on good shots, not good saves on like, oh, where did that shot come from, right? Like Charleston made him work, and he worked hard, and he worked well.
Yeah. And I do think some of I agree with everything you guys have said. I think that there were a number of standout moments for him, for me, that you can kind of see the type of player that I think he could develop into be in this system. The slip just felt so reminiscent to me back to the start of last season when Beto slipped and like it led to a goal in the first game. It just felt like deja vu. So hopefully, with Nico, we have a similar
what you're saying
outcome.
Is he needed to let it go in so that we could win the championship again?
No, I'm not saying let it go in, but like, I also think part of that was, we talked a little bit about how direct the team wants to be and how much they want to involve the keeper with the ball at his feet. And because of whether it was the conditions or whether it's the team is still trying to figure that out, there are a number of passes that barely made it to him. So I think as a team, they're still trying to figure out that rhythm of who's going to be where and when. And I think that slip was part of that. There was one play in particular where, was it Asumanu that hit the ball back to him in the air, and Nico had to chest it down and then play it out, when he also could have just let it go out for a corner, but instead he saved it with a guy bearing down on him. So like, I think at least at this point, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I agree. I think he was one of our best players on the night. One of the other players that, I continue to fanboy over, but that's just me. We've talked for seasons about how we think that Danny Griffin is probably one of our better attacking midfielders. I think it is kind of weird though, how like you guys were saying, we started him up top and I was like, here we go. Like, this is going to be great. But where the game really came to life was when he kind of shifted back to being a holding midfielder, and especially our goal. He picked it up sort of between, like just in front of the defense, carried it into space, and he was the one who found all, who then, tried to find Dequa. So part of me does wonder, we'll get to Sam Bassett in a minute, but part of me does wonder, is playing Danny more of a central holding midfielder going to be the way to help this team tick moving forward? I think there's probably still questions because, like you said, no Mertz, no Goldthorpe. So we'll see what happens when they come in. But, what did you guys think of Danny last night, Justin?
I thought I had very similar thoughts as you. I think he's really good at finding the game, and he found the game in the second half.
Yeah.
It wasn't the position that he was playing though.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, and he made some really good plays from where he found the game. But when you're finding the game kind of on top of the guy that's supposed to be behind you and is supposed to be making kind of the overlapping runs around you, it doesn't allow him to do that. And so I think it's like, I'm not blaming him. I'm more just saying, hey, we haven't quite figured this system out. This system is different. And guys will need to figure out where to find the game. And I think as the season goes on, Daniel will figure out where to find the game in the position that he's playing rather than just going and finding the game. And I think that's what he was doing. Kind of after halftime, he came out and is like, I just got to get on the ball. Yeah. So I'm going to go find the ball and figure out spaces where I can get the ball. And so I don't know that it was ever a tactical shift to be like, hey, you go play defensive midfielder. But it was like, that's where he found the game, And so good players will do that.
Yeah. Steve, any thoughts there?
No, I mean, I think what Justin's talking about is 100% accurate. And that's one of those things that for me is kind of the transition of the system and the tactics of Danny's got to figure it out how to find the game further up the field if he's going to be playing further up the field. Because you saw he did what he's been doing for years, and he dropped back and did really well at it. But we see what he can do going forward as well. And so, again, like it's a new system. It's multiple players that I think we're relying on seeing a lot of minutes from not being in the lineup. But also like good, like the captain is like, this isn't going the way we want. What am I going to do about it? I'm going to go and try to make something happen. And he did. So I love that.
We know that Danny is not the most vocal leader on the field. He's more of lead by example. And then this was the case that he did. One of the other big discussion points, guys, in our chat was DG got taken off. He got subbed off, and the armband went to Alal Asumanu. Lots of like, what? Versus like, yeah, that makes sense. Steve, where did you land on that and why?
I mean, okay, so you can give it to Dequa, who just came back. Or you can give it to who, right? Like Osamano at that time was the longest continuous tenured player on the field. But more than that is, I think there are valid critiques of some of the mistakes that Alal has made over the years of some of his decision making, some of his like he's had some howlers, and that's valid, right? But I've seen it in terms of the way he interacts with the other players, the way he acts in practice, that he is a leader in the locker room and he's a leader on the field with the other players. And I just want to like you're talking about the guy that had the presence of mind during the Eastern Conference championship game to hand the trophy to Rob Vincent, right? Like he's the guy that did it, not someone else. He stepped up. He's got that mindset of like, how do I think about what to do in this moment that is best for all of us? And so, that to me is that character of why I think he got it. And I have no problem with it.
Listen, I will say that as a person, I think Alal is great. You referenced the howlers, and I think that's the one thing that gives me pause. He is the only guy that I know that has won both USL2, League One, and the championship. Like, I don't think there's anyone else that's done that, which is kind of cool. Justin, is there anybody else on the field that you think should have gotten the armband first?
I mean, there's guys that I think it could, but I don't think it matters that much. I don't think it's any indication. Like, I don't think there's like an indicator thing that, like, you know, all that kind of stuff. Like, you know, one of the other teams that I follow just released like the captain and then their team leadership group. And it was like, you know, this group of players, not all of them are even constant starters. It's just, this is the team leadership group. And I could easily see a law being on that kind of, you know, it's like, you don't have to start all the time. You don't have to like, but you're a locker room guy that like makes sense to have there. And obviously it's made sense to have him around for 4 years now. So cool.
Yeah. I mean, to kind of give another former Hound that he reminds me of in that way, it's Danny Rivera, right? Like a guy that I think we all loved and respected, and a guy that the rest of the players and would always bring the new players in and help them acclimate to the Riverhounds and to Pittsburgh and whatnot. And I see Alal doing a lot of those same things.
Yeah. Guys, what other takeaways do you have from this one? How do you, one of the big questions is we start the season with a loss. For some people, the sky is falling, you know, the floor is crumbling. We're all going to crap. For others, it's just a game. Where do you fall on that spectrum, Justin? I think I can guess, but where do you fall on that spectrum?
Yeah.
It wasn't a must-win game.
Is this a must-win game?
Absolutely. We had to win this game. Now our season's crap. No, I think, you know, this game, there was a lot more positives than negatives for me in this game. You know, you're going to play a team that has been around at the top of the East for a long, long time. You know, they're not going anywhere. And so I think, you know, it is a hard way to start the season. You know, and I'm sure Lexington felt the same way, you know, and having to play Louisville in the first game of the season and all that kind of stuff. So I don't see any problem with what happened. And I do think comparatively, you know, one of the things that you know, has been said all offseason was, hey, we're going to start fast. We're going to start fast. We're going to start fast. And this game was miles ahead of first games of the season for several years now, you know, and it's like there's these first games of the season that just like, you're like, what are we doing? You know, and it's like now with this team in this game, you can see the ideas, you can see what's supposed to happen, you could see kind of the tactical nature of what we were doing. You could see that Rob's got you know, I think at some point last night a substitution was made and the announcer said that's probably a tactical substitution from the Hounds, and I'm like, oh, we can make those. And you know, it shows to me that like Rob's got the chops to kind of figure out like, oh, this is happening on the field, so we need to make this substitution. And for the most part his substitutions were great. One of the things that hit me last night was something, Steve, you've been talking about all off season long. I thought for the 20 minutes or whatever he got last night, Jackson Walty was playing for a starting spot. Like he was trying to convince Rob for 20 minutes that no, I need to start the next game. And we can talk about Loudon at some point, but I do think that would actually help next game if he does start. And I could explain why later. But I just think it's, you know, it's clear to me that there's competition. Yeah. It's clear to me that even with Mertz and Goldthorpe out, that there's not an obvious like weak link. You know, not saying you shouldn't put Robbie back on the field as soon as he's healthy, but it's like, okay, but that means you're taking all off. You're moving Danny back, so you're taking Bassett off. Like, and I don't necessarily want any of those guys taken off, but that competition is really, really good for this team. And so I'm seeing a lot of really good things that I'm not complaining about at all at the moment.
Steve, you didn't seem too doom and gloom this morning, so you still feeling good?
Yeah, no, and I feel even better, I think, than I did last night or even when I woke up this morning. Because, like, okay, right? Like, the Hounds should, and anytime the Hounds lose, their opponents should be talking about, we won the championship. We beat the team that won the championship. But Charleston was one of the best teams in the regular season last year, right? Like this is not like we were the Supporter Shield winning team and ran the playoffs and scored 20 goals in the playoffs, right? Like yeah, we got the star, we got the cup. That's huge. That's massive. Love it. But it was not the prettiest way to get there. And we eked in because of a beneficial result on the last game of the season to have that first home game, right? Like this could have gone so many different ways. And this could have just been another second place team plays fifth place team that didn't do anything in the playoffs. Great. We won the championship. Hell yeah. Right. And they get to boast all day on social media, took down the champs. They are a great team and they deserve credit for that. So no, I'm not like, yeah, we've got to figure out how to beat them long term, but I'm not bothered by it.
Yeah. It's always interesting. And we've talked about this in the past where I feel like the moment where everyone may feel close to the best that they feel about a season is right before kickoff on that first game, because literally anything is possible. And it's just like, this is it. This could be our season. And then you play that first game and either half of, fans are like, we're still the best. And the other half is like, it's over. We already got, I feel slightly worse than I did before kickoff, but even at that, it's still light years beyond where I would have been last season. As you said, it's very clear the progression that we've made in terms of recruiting. It's very clear the progression that we've made in terms of strategy and style of play. And we are going to take our lumps here and there as we learn it, but it didn't even feel like, I mean, there were times that it felt like Charleston were dominating, but also I don't know how much of that was because we were playing worse versus we were allowing them to dominate. Like that was the plan. Let them dominate and then we will come back and hit them after that. So it's going to take a few more games to kind of see how this all plays out. Rob got his first loss, so he can't say that he hasn't lost yet. So kudos to you guys who predicted the first game. I said never. He's never going to lose all season. Clearly, I'm an idiot. But yeah. Any other takeaways from this one, guys, before we get to Mondo's moment and we pick our top three, which we haven't done in a while either? No?
No.
All right. Let's see what Mondo had to say about this one.
It's time for Mondo's moment, the top moment of the game from the Mondalorian.
The Mondo moment for the season opener for the Riverhounds against Charleston Battery is actually a trio of Mondo moments and a special mention. The first pair of Mondo moments goes to Nico Camposano, who reeled off a pair of just incredible saves in the first half. This is the way. Next Mondo moment goes to all of the players in the USL as they stood in silence for 1 minute before each match, in solidarity with each other and with their union. This is the way. And finally, special mention goes to Josh of Mongols, who managed to find himself on TV at least thrice that I counted. This is the way.
This has been Mondo's moment. Go Hounds.
Thrice.
Yeah. Friggin' Mondo. Love it. Josh was on TV a lot. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Yeah. Guys, let's do our top three. So last season, we introduced kind of this new format. I feel like we need an intro, but I also don't want to like undercut Mondo because I really like Mondo's moments. So maybe we won't have an intro. Where we basically rank the players and in order, top three. The player ranked number 1 gets 3 points, player number 2 gets 2 points, player number 3 gets 1 point. And then we total them up at the end of the season. And that gives you a snapshot of who ended up being kind of our top performer for the whole year. Last season, about halfway through the season, Jackson Walty was kind of running away with it. Then he picked up a knock and Robbie Mertz overcame. And Robbie Mertz was our winner. So we need to still do something for Robbie and get him some sort of an award. We'll figure that out. But guys, let's pick our top three for this one. Justin, I will start with you. It could be in position 1, 2, or 3. Give me a player that you think at least belongs in that list, and then we can debate the order.
I'll give you the one that I didn't say earlier in the show because I think you'll end up there anyway. But I thought Souza was fantastic last night. Yeah, it's cool to see a guy step into that center back role and like do it really well, and make it look pretty easy. And when you lose a guy like Suber, to be able to recruit and find a guy who can slide right in there, and keep Guy and Beto looking good, like, great. I'm so glad he's here.
Yeah. Steve?
Well, I want to follow up on what Justin said. I mean,
Yeah.
Souza had a better debut than Sean Suber, so it makes me excited for what he can be. Right? Like, I don't know how good he's going to be. It's been harder to see some of his talents. I think in comparison, because he's surrounded by two other fantastic defenders, so he doesn't stick out in the same way that I think like Sean and Arturo did in their first few appearances. So really like Souza as well. He was kind of like right in the discussion for me. Sam Bassett was just a menace and everywhere, and really liked everything I saw out of him. I think, as Justin kind of talked about a little bit earlier, his the weakest part of Sam Bassett last night was getting crowded by Danny.
Yeah.
And what do you do about that?
Look, Sam Bassett was one that we had conversations about, but I hadn't really seen play, especially not in this formation.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really know what to expect. When I saw him show up in the starting lineup, I was like, cool. Okay, great. Now we're going to get to see him, do some stuff. He reminded me a lot of times of Danny Griffin, where he would pick up spots, where he would fill spaces to pick up passes and then turn with the ball. And he's 22. DG is 27. So like if he's kind of like DG 2.0, fantastic. And if we have two of those guys on the field, that's only going to make us better. So yeah, I'm really excited to see, what sort of comes from Bassett moving forward. Okay. See, now I'm torn.
Toss them out there. We'll discuss them.
I know. I fanboyed over DG. I was going to say DG because that goal doesn't happen if he doesn't press the play. But he was also quiet in the first half. I could go with Nico because, he was the Hounds man of the match. I think it would probably come down to one of those two for me. Where do you guys land on that? Which one of those two do you think should be in the top three, Justin?
For me, it's Nico. I don't think Danny had a bad night. I think he's out of position and trying to figure out how to play that position, and was struggling a little bit to find the game there. And he did make the good play that caused the own goal, or got all in position to cause the own goal. But I think like that was kind of the one moment that I was like, oh, DG is here. He is here and he's doing stuff. So
Steve, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, you need a keeper to make saves, right? Like if a keeper doesn't make any saves, then they shouldn't be playing the position. But on another night, this game is out of reach before we even have a chance to find that goal, because Nico made some phenomenal saves that, this game could have opened up a lot earlier as well, right? Like he kept us in it throughout the entirety of that first half and through that first 30 minutes of a lot of pressure and a lot of good attacks by Charleston. And we could have been going into halftime with a multiple goal deficit at that point and just been like, okay, now what? He kept us competitive in this game.
It's crazy that we're, kind of gushing over a keeper when we did give up 2 goals, but I can't argue against that based on the performance. I think for each of the goals that he gave up, he made up for it with, and more with a couple, really impressive saves that could have made this game even further out of reach. Okay. So Souza, Bassett, Nico are currently our top 3. Any arguments for somebody else to be in that list? No. Okay, I'm getting some nods. All right, Justin, give me an order. Who's 1, 2, and 3?
Just reverse that list.
You think it goes Nico, Bassett, Souza?
Nico, Bassett, Souza, yeah.
Steve's eyes are about to bug out of his head. Okay, all right. Steve, what do you think?
Interesting. Oh, not that. I don't know. Like that just like totally. I kind of like Bassett a little bit more overall. I just think Bassett was great all night. I think doesn't show up in the ways that really, like, to me, like what Bassett did is like he would get a 5 from us when we used to rate the players, and then I've got Luke Biasi in my ear, like, come on, I'm better than that, right? Like yeah, actually you are. You did all the things that don't show up in terms of like the spectacular. For me, Bassett was that player that like easy to undervalue, but invaluable in a lot of the things he did all night long.
Okay, so if we let's just say we swap it, we go Bassett, Nico, Souza. Are we okay with that?
I like that better.
Justin, you're not gonna be upset with that?
I won't get too upset with that.
All right, so our first player in 2026 with 3 points is going to be Sam Bassett, followed by Nico with 2, and then Sousa with 1. So I need to figure out in this new setup. I don't know. I need to put a board somewhere, but we'll keep track of this, and we'll figure out some award that we still haven't given Robbie from last season, and we can
give Peter.
We'll give
Be creative some homework to start a spreadsheet for us for that, since he did such a great job last week. Like, it was awesome that he took all those notes.
Agreed. And I also like that title for him. Let Peter be Mongols creative. Like, is that his official title?
Yeah, I think in the Steel Army Discord it's like Peter B, because his last name starts with a B, creative. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So there you go, Peter. There's some homework for you. Guys, that's what we think. Obviously, let us know what you think in terms of who you feel the top 3 should be. Justin, you mentioned next week the Hounds travel to Loudon on Saturday for a 3 p.m. game at Segra Field. It sounds like the Steel Army's taking a bus trip, so I'm sure more information from them. Loudon did not play this week, so this is going to be their first game of the season, which you'd have to imagine would be a slight advantage to us. Justin, you were alluding to the fact that you feel that Walty should start this one. So let's dig into that for a minute before we start getting into predictions or anything else.
Yeah. I think the thing that you kind of get when you go with a double pivot in central midfield is like you need one guy who's a little bit more defensive, and you need another guy who's a little more offensive. And I think with Bassett and Sample, you're kind of getting the same player.
Yeah.
And I think like that's where DG found the game too. And so I really feel like I don't want to say that, hey, let's take the guy who just won man of the match for this game off the field for the next game. So maybe it is Sample that makes way. But I think if you actually put a more defensive midfielder in that role, they're going to be able to drop between the center backs at times, which will spread the center backs out, which will spread the outside backs out, which again will make the game a lot more wide than what it was against Charleston. And so I do think, like, if I'm Rob and I'm sitting there thinking, okay, what am I going to do next week? And assuming neither Mertz or Goldthorpe is ready to go 90, and you've got basically the same pool of players available, I think I swap one of those midfielders for a Walty to kind of shore up the central defensive channel so that everything else can spread out wider, and you can create more attacks from width.
Yeah, I love that shout, and I agree 100%. I think having a Jackson Walty who can sort of sit in, and then you have either a Bassett or a DG that can drop in next to him but press a little bit higher. Maybe you have the other one a little bit further up the field, since it sounds like Bassett can play either holding mid or attacking mid. It could be very interesting. And to your point, once these other guys come back, last we talked to Robbie, it sounds like he feels he'll be ready to get some minutes this week, but he's not going to be able to go 90. So we'll see if he comes on as a sub. Steve, your thoughts on Loudon and us heading there?
I mean, I'm driving down, got a couple guys riding down with me, so looking forward to going, watching some soccer. Like that, can go down and get back in the same day. Justin, you coming down? It's not that far for you.
I wish. I don't think I can. Every other weekend in March is wild. And so that one might be the one that we're like, yeah, we're going to watch this one from the couch.
Yeah.
Steve, are you taking Drew so you guys can go have dinner at his parents' house afterwards?
He's not leaving Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
From what I know. Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah.
So what do we think? Aside from potentially Walty in midfield, was there anything else that you guys feel you would like to see differently, either based on what we saw in the first half or based on what we saw from substitutions? Do you think we try the same thing again, Justin? I mean, obviously your argument for Walty, I support, but are there any other changes that you would like to see as we go into this one?
No, I just think shoring up that defensive midfield role will actually just free everybody else up. It'll let Bassett push forward a little bit more. It'll let DG and all kind of be a little more free to where they want to find spots on the field, which will allow them to push forward a little bit. And then it'll let Barnes and the two get further up the field. And that's what they needed to do all night last night, was just get a little further up the field and press on the Charleston outside backs a little bit. And so I think if they do that, I don't see any need to like make any drastic changes, and I would almost rather them not. I'd rather them either just run with the same lineup again and fix what needs to be fixed, or try to fix what needs to be fixed with that lineup, or make one or two substitutions changes and then try to run it back again and see what works and what doesn't.
Steve, anything you'd switch up?
I mean, I totally hear what Justin is saying, and I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. There's a part of me that just wants to be like, forget about it. Try something different, right? Like only because I'm like, it's early in the season. Test some things out. Like put Trevor Amon in instead of Charles All, and have Danny kind of play a little bit deeper behind the two forwards and see what happens for 60 minutes, right? Like, does that change things, right? Like I could go that way as well, right? And just have an experiment. I don't know. We're Hounds fans. We're not used to winning in the first 4 games of the season. So we're still trying to shake off the rust too, right? So I'm not going to be that upset.
And Trevor almost got a crazy deflection goal last night anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I would make the one argument that we've got a game 4 nights later against a League 2 team that I think will pretty easily take care of, that you could try something new against.
Yeah. Steel City. So, guys, let's do a score prediction. We're heading down to Loudon. It's their first game of the season. It's our second. We just kind of gushed a little bit, I think probably as much as you can after a loss, for our first home game, or our first game of the season. Steve, give me a score prediction in this one.
2-1 Hounds.
Justin?
I was going to say 2-0 Hounds. I think the first 30 minutes looks very similar to the 30 minutes that we just played at the first half of this game, as Loudon goes crazy trying to get a goal, but I think we keep him out again, and then we kind of take the game from there.
I really like the 2-0 shout. I think there might be some talking to Rob, there's a lot of pride in keeping clean sheets and playing good defense. So I think giving up 2, even to a really good battery team, there might be a bit of a refocus of like, okay, let's lock this down. Yeah, I like the 2-0 shout. So I will go with that as well. Guys, obviously there's a ton of stuff going on right now. Anything else that you guys want to talk about on this one?
That conversation, just like, oh shoot, I got to start paying attention to my predictions from last week, because I took the under, and now I'm saying, yeah, we're going to have given up 3 goals in the first 2 games.
Yeah, that's right. Agreed. I don't know. I feel like I had other thoughts and now they're out of my head. So I have nothing else to say. Guys, as always, really appreciate you guys jumping on the chat. We appreciate everyone who's here, leaving comments, joining us live. A lot of the stuff we do for you guys as well. So if you do have questions, comments, thoughts, whatever, you can either join us live, leave them in the comments of the videos. You can email us at mongols3@gmail.com. We'll talk about, sort of whatever is put out. Well, I shouldn't say whatever. A lot of the stuff that's put out there's some stuff that we're not going to touch, but I'll just, in closing, I'm really happy the season's back. I was legitimately excited yesterday. I'm still legitimately excited. I think there's going to be a lot of good we're going to see this season. Really looking forward to just keeping the ball rolling and seeing where this game can go. So, all right, guys, I think that's it for this one. As always, appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. We will be back with more Hounds content for you very, very soon.
See ya.
See ya.